And welcome to this week's edition of the JGoodWithSports podcast. I'm your host, Jay Good. So, in this week, we're going to talk about the NFL, about how there's no more undefeated teams left, how a future Hall of Famer just signed with a powerhouse, how a blown lead is now, by Coach Prime, just, became a, number one headline, MLB playoffs, and much more. But yeah, let's get into the NFL, how last week I was just talking about the 49ers being the class of the NFL, being that it's just them and then everyone else. But, you know, this is why they call it any given Sunday, right? Because they went into Cleveland, they went to the dog pound, they took an L. They lost. They lost 19-17 on the road, where a lot of people predicted that if the Niners would lose, this might have been one of the games, even without Deshaun Watson. It's just more so the fact that the Cleveland Browns defense has just been playing stellar. When you have talent like Myles Garrett, who's arguably one of the best defensive players in the league, Zadarius Smith, Denzel Ward, at all three phases of the defense, they are stout at every level. I mean, it makes it difficult for anyone. I mean, obviously the 49ers lost, right? Um, but also take into the account that, Christian McCaffrey got hurt, Deebo Samuel got hurt. So Brock Purdy, he struggled. That's probably one of his worst games. That's his first loss in a regular season in his NFL career. But nevertheless, even despite all of that, Brock Purdy still led them down on the final drive to kick what would have been a game-winning field goal, even though, the kicker missed it. It happens. But nevertheless, the Niners are no longer undefeated. PJ Walker was the starting quarterback. I mean, the man threw 2 interceptions. He was 18-34, 192. Brock Purdy was 12 for 27, 125, one touchdown, one pick. I mean, it was a gritty, tough, hard-nosed football game, but hey, it happens. So Niners are now 5-1. That happened on early on the day on Sunday, so it was like, okay, well, the Eagles, they got the best record in the league. They'll beat the Jets, right? Yeah, about that. Yeah, Jalen Hurts definitely had the worst game of the season for him. They won the MetLife Stadium. They took an L to the Jets. Jets ended up winning 20-14. Zach Wilson, 19-33 for 186. He didn't throw any picks. I don't believe he fumbled, so he actually didn't turn over the ball. He did what he could to, manage this game as best as possible. The defense stepped up. This was one for me to where if the Jets was going to have a chance, the defense had to play better, and it rose to the call. I mean, Jalen Hurts threw 3 picks, man. Jalen Hurts also has some like dimes out there. He some of them passes was like stellar, but when it's all said and done, if you can't capitalize in the red zone, then you just keeping the door open for the other team to make it happen. And at the end of the day, you know, you leave the door open for a team that's inferior, that can't compete with you offensively by any means. Quarterback is situation is definitely night and day, but nevertheless, it happens. So therefore, Jets are now 3-3 on the year. The Eagles are 5-1. My Bears end up losing. Justin Fields dislocated his thumb. What can you do? Our backup quarterback is an undrafted rookie from D2, Bajent. I mean, it is what it is. We're 1-5. If anything, at least our draft stock's still looking good. Panthers keep losing, so it helps us out a lot. But one more news from the NFL I definitely want to get into. Julio Jones, who he's been in the last couple of years been more so of a journeyman, but when we remember Julio Jones, we remember his prime days in Atlanta to where he basically had 300 yards receiving on the Carolina Panthers one game and got the coach fired the next day for the Panthers. I remember that quite as day. I remember him just being the quote unquote original monsters amongst men. And that's something that, I deem to a certain number of players in the NFL who's just, they say he's a man amongst boys, but no, I know these are grown men. He's a monster amongst men. Him, AJ Brown, and Derrick Henry for me are monsters amongst men. So, nevertheless, Julio Jones signs with the Philadelphia Eagles. It came out of nowhere. Initially, for the first hour, I had no words. The Eagles went to the Super Bowl last year. The Eagles already have AJ Brown, who, advocated for him to join Tennessee when he left Atlanta, so he did. You already have Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift. Of course, Jalen Hurts is at quarterback. Your defense been playing pretty well. So Julio can be half of what we know Julio to be in that offense. He don't even have to do much. Just stay healthy and catch a pass or two. Just be a decoy. That's insane. So that's definitely a future Hall of Famer by far. Joining an already stout team. It's one of those, the rich get richer, right? I mean, that's how we kind of looked at the 49ers last year when they traded for Christian McCaffrey. It was already pretty good. But when you add Christian McCaffrey to that already stout offense and that scheme and that defense, it took them over the top. So now, we expect the Niners and Eagles to rematch again in an NFC Championship game this year. And if we expect that to happen, I'm hoping this time around at least Brock Purdy will be healthy. That's what I'm hoping for. Because I firmly believe if Brock Purdy was healthy last year, the 49ers would have been in the Super Bowl instead of the Eagles. But, that's neither here nor there right now. It is what it is. So, yeah. And then really quick, I know we're done with the NFL, but, the Buffalo Bills, even though they won on Sunday night against the Giants, that game was abysmal. That game, they deserved to lose that game, even though they ended up winning 14-9. The fact that you struggled against the Giants team who didn't even have their starting quarterback, who offense hadn't scored a first half touchdown all year. A team that has been pretty pathetic in general this whole year. You let them in the game. You basically struggled to put up points against them, who the Cardinals had no problem putting up points against, who the 49ers had no problem putting up points against, the Dallas Cowboys had no problem putting up points against. And yet, the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, with Stephon Diggs, with James Cook, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, whomever, this offensive firepower, you only put up 14 points and you struggled. Like, I can no longer put the Buffalo Bills in that elite tier in the AFC. Like, we're so quick to, proclaim Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, like right under the Kansas City Chiefs, ever since, they was 13 seconds away from beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead and moving on in the playoffs. Ever since then, they've taken steps back. They regressed. Because last year, Joe Burrow let them know that, we are in the same tier with them. You under us. We deemed last year that Joe Burrow was greater than Josh Allen. And now this year, like Buffalo probably is the fourth best team in the AFC. Kansas City's definitely one, along with the Miami Dolphins. I think that's 1 and 1A right there as of right now. And I feel like the Miami Dolphins would probably beat Kansas City right now. After that, I feel like Cincinnati can probably beat Buffalo, even though Cincinnati had a tough start. But I think they're turning it around. And then I got Buffalo at 4. And I understand Buffalo beat the Dolphins, but that's just more so due to familiarity. They're division rivals. But you put them teams on a neutral field, no. Miami's better. Kansas City's better. I believe Cincinnati will still beat them. So yeah. Josh Allen, like, I'm not gonna put you on a pedestal. I'm not gonna, give you the unearned props. Like, you got to get it done. Your biggest issue is turning over the ball in the red zone, turnovers in general, but especially in the red zone, empty trips. That costs you games, and that costs you advancement in the playoffs. Do better. You got to play better. That's just what it is. All right, so we're going to move it along here. So, Colorado, the Buffaloes, Coach Prime. As you know, entering this year, everything that Coach Prime has done has been, I guess, at this point, overachieving what they done last year as a whole, right? So as you know, the Colorado Buffaloes only won one game last year, cleaned house, brought in Coach Prime, all these transfers, yada, yada, yada. First game of the year, they go on the road and beat TCU, who was just in the national championship game. They beat them 45-42. They started the year 3-0. I'm like, okay. And then they got their first real test, went on the road against Oregon, number 10 Oregon. They got smacked into a reality check 42-6. The following week they was at home against USC. They ended up losing 48-41. It was getting smacked in the first half, but they actually fought back, and they actually had a chance to tie the game. They had a couple of chances. They just blew it. Following week, they played Arizona State on the road. They ended up winning 27-24. And then they was at home against Stanford, which Stanford's not a good team. They were up. 29-0. They ended up losing 46-43 in double overtime. So that's a bad loss. Colorado is 4-3 on the year. My take is, look, this is the first year. I feel like a lot of those guys are not used to winning, and maybe all this publicity, all this winning, all this glit and glamour because Coach Prime brought in accelerated attention to their program because of who he is. And yeah, maybe they did get a big hit. Maybe they underestimated their opponent. Maybe they took them for granted. All that can be true. But also what is also true is that this team has 4 wins on the year. This team is playing in a tough conference. I feel like the Pac-12, this is the last year we're going to know the Pac-12 because a lot of teams are going to vacate after this year. But this has been one of the most stable conferences all season. They've had multiple teams in the top 25. And so this is definitely a great, learning experience, a great measuring stick at this point before Colorado moves, I believe, back to the Big 12. If they can get 6 wins and be bowl eligible, I feel like that's a win. Like I said at the beginning of the year, if the Buffaloes can make a bowl game, that is a very successful season. We knew year one's going to be tough because they are not in the class of Oregon, Washington, Utah, USC, UCLA. Like those teams, those schools, those programs are definitely hitting shows better. But as the years come on, as the recruiting classes, the transfer portals, like all of that starts to unravel and develop, give it 2 more years. Give it 2 more years. The Colorado Buffaloes are going to be relevant, very soon. I expect Deion to have the number one recruiting class. I expect his son to come back for a senior year. I expect continuity in the offense. And like Coach Prime said, they're about 7 to 8 dogs away from really, being something special. The offensive line, he definitely needs some recruiting and transfer portal help there. The secondary on the defense, Travis Hunter can't do it all by himself. The defensive line, maybe another running back, maybe another wide receiver. Nevertheless, this here is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I don't believe Coach Prime is going to leave to go to the NFL. I believe he really enjoys mentoring and coaching young men at this stage, ones that are hungry, ones that want to do something with their lives. So I don't think this is fake. I think this is a legitimate opportunity for Coach Prime, a legitimate home, a place where he can be embraced for years to come. And of course, all that comes with the end result of winning. You just got to win. And once again, the fact that they have quadrupled their win total from last year, he's on the right track. I believe you got to win 6 games to be bowl eligible. Just get 2 more. The rest of the schedule, probably not going to be easy because they got UCLA next on the road. Then they're home against UCLA is number 25. Oregon State is number 12. Then you got your home against Arizona. You're on the road against Washington State. And then you finish out on the road at number 14 Utah. So let's see what he can do. 5 more games left. Just to win at least 2 to be bowl eligible. You get 3, you should definitely make a bowl game. But yeah, we gonna see. Like all these tough losses, all this hurt and experience, it's just definitely just gonna mold them to be a better team. Yeah, so we will see what happens there. Boy, oh boy. Playoff baseball is it's second to none for me. I know I said this last week, but man, just the intensity, the atmosphere is like every pitch matters, every at bat matters, every swing, every adjustment, every pitching change, pitch hit, you name it. The Phillies are up 2-0. Man, Trey Turner's a dog. Kyle Schwarber's a dog. Of course, Bryce Harper's a dog. Look, I understand Arizona, the Diamondbacks beat a 100-win team in the Los Angeles Dodgers. But like the Phillies, like they are showing people like last year, a run to the World Series is not a fluke. They even look more dangerous this year than last year. I mean, to beat Atlanta, I know you beat Atlanta 2 years in a row, and this year's Atlanta team was historic. Historic. Who has a slugging percentage over 500 as a team for the year? Who? No one. Definitely not in the modern era. No one. It's never been done in the modern era. Never. So for them to do that, beat the perennial MVP, Acuna, to beat them 3-1, to so far dominate the Arizona Diamondbacks in this series. It's like I pretty much expectations. I expect them to go to the World Series at this point. The Texas Rangers, on the other hand, they're pretty much in the same boat. If I'm not mistaken, Texas hasn't lost a game. The Rangers have not lost a game in the postseason. There are 2 defending champs, the Houston Astros. It's an intra-Texas battle. I'm sure if you live in Texas right now and a baseball fan, I'm pretty sure it's about as hype as the North Side and the South Side here, or the Subway Series in New York with the Yankees and Mets. So I'm pretty sure it's a lot of fanter and banter and all sorts of fandom going on there. I feel like with the rule change this year, that helped baseball out a lot. The games go by quicker. I mean, we already knew playoff baseball was intense by itself. But yeah, this here is something special. So yeah, at this point, if the Rangers and the Phillies was to meet, that is 100% box office. I'm here for it. Both teams are hot. And that means we're going to see a champion we probably haven't seen in a very long time. So yeah, buckle up, people. And lastly, the NBA. Preseason is here. Preseason basketball. Start of the regular season is in a couple of weeks. As we know, we talked about the trades, right? Milwaukee Bucks acquiring Damian Lillard, the Boston Celtics, acquiring Kristaps Porzingis, and then recently Jrue Holiday. The Miami Heat being the biggest losers, not acquiring anyone. And then you have James Harden, who Kenyon Martin went on, I want to say, I believe it's the Gilbert Arenas podcast recently, and basically, in a nutshell, called James Harden damaged goods. And everything that he said, I 100% agree. To the standpoint, if you're an NBA team, why would you want to trade for James Harden? For what? Like, he pretty much showed you who he is. He pretty much let you know what matters to him the most. Like, he's just not a winning player. The last time he was somewhat of a winning player when he was on the Thunder, when he was a sixth man, when he actually came in, played defense, played hard, when he actually played for the team and tried to win. We knew James Harden was special then. Goes to Houston, put up all these stats, like just, scoring titles, MVP, averaging triple doubles, whatever. But, in the biggest games, in the biggest moments, he came up short. The team itself came up short. Remember when they played against the Warriors and they had a chance. They had a chance to beat them, and they missed 27 straight threes and gave the Warriors just enough daylight to win that game and ultimately win the series. You had a chance. Actually, you had plenty of them over your career. Blew it. Then you force your way to Brooklyn. And that didn't last too long. But, when Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving was healthy, I mean, he actually didn't look half bad. But nevertheless, it didn't work out. Then you force your way to Philly, which, you know, this past season was probably your best opportunity. You were up 3-2 against Boston in the Eastern Conference semifinals. You're up in the fourth quarter. Jason Tatum couldn't hit anything all game. We were ready to crucify Jason Tatum for his poor play and getting eliminated. But yet, you all couldn't get it done. And Jason Tatum hit enough shots to force Game 7. And then in Game 7, they 30-pieced you in the second quarter. James Harden was nowhere to be found. And now here we are in the offseason where we thought, he would get traded because he was forcing his way out, called Daryl Morey a liar. He may be, maybe not. But at this point, why would anybody want to trade for you, James Harden? Why? Like, what value do you bring to a team? Sure, you can score the ball still probably. You can still probably be a perennial all-star, borderline all-star caliber player at times. But you don't win. You do not move the needle anymore. You don't. I feel like you made your own bed at this point. Now you stuck in it. So, yeah, if I'm a team, I would not trade for James Harden at all. That's me. And as you see, nobody has done it. If the Clippers do it, I think they're foolish, but we'll see. So I appreciate you all. I'll be back next week. JGoodWithSports Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. I'll be back on the radio, on the No Offense Radio on November 15th. So stand by for that. Your boy, yours truly, Jay Good. My other two podcasts, the Early Morning Sports Talk Podcast, Saturday mornings live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch with my bros Brandon and Ian. As you'll hear me talk more about sports, but we dive a little bit deeper into it and make our NFL picks. And then Sunday mornings, the Destination Fantasy Podcast, my fantasy football podcast. We help anybody out with lineup questions, trade scenarios, let them know who's going to have a tough matchup that week or who should benefit. We answer live on the air on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube with my bros Deshaun and Ian as well. So your boys always stay busy. But until next time, you all have a good one. Peace.